All right, this is supervisor training, and I'm going to talk about business principles related to running a shift. So this is a lot of times what differentiates a senior supervisor from a junior supervisor, is how embedded in your thinking and your planning are these principles. The first one I'm going to discuss is driving sales. And this one is so simple. It is your job primarily. And like of all of the business principles, like this one is the most important because it has to do with just valuing people. And it has to do with understanding that we are a business that brings enjoyment. That's our goal, to bring enjoyment. We want every single customer who comes through the door to have a sensory experience of enjoyment. So we want them to smell that it's amazing inside, to see that it's beautiful, to see that we're beautiful, that we're clean and not grubby, that our uniforms are on, and that we're smiling, things like that. That's what I mean by beautiful. I mean that you're clean and you're smiling and in uniform. We want them to see these tables full of product, right? If there is an empty space in the kitchen, it is full of product. Filling the kitchen with display trays is not just like, look, I put some fudge out on the table. It's like, no, you made that kitchen sparkle. You made sure that there's all of these different items that are displayed for customers. So the kitchen looks active. It's very obvious that we do what we do, which is we make everything that we sell. So we want them to smell us. We want them to see that things are beautiful, to have a sense for who we are just from that first impression. We want them to hear themselves greeted, not like welcome to Moe's, like a bunch of robots, but like in a warm, friendly way. Back before I had children, I worked primarily in the kitchen on Hilliard's, and Chad was constantly having a double take when I was working in the kitchen because he kept thinking that our friends were coming in the door. And that was a season where we knew everybody. We lived in a really small 1 mile radius, and like literally every shopkeeper and customer. Anyway, there was a reason he might think that I was greeting someone that I knew, but every single time I'd greet somebody, he would think that it was someone that I knew because my voice was warm and personal and friendly. And I have found that the more I move up the ladder in terms of in management, the less warm and personal and friendly I can be with customers, unfortunately, because I have like 30 bazillion things going on in my head. And maybe it's not just making this chocolate item gorgeous and greeting people, right? So that's on me. I always want to be leading the way by example and being super friendly. But it really is your job to make sure that somebody is super friendly is the first impression of every single customer. And that's why waffle cones is also a people job. It's not just the job that you put people on who are unable to interact with other humans. So this full sensory experience, right? That's driving sales, okay? They can smell us, they can see us, they hear us, and they taste us, right? They taste that our product is amazing. They're being offered samples. So that means we're planning, right? We've got that caramel corn spread out on the table right at 2:00, right when that peak afternoon rush comes to get ice cream, or right at 7:00 after the dinner, at dinner time when all the customers are going to come inside for ice cream. We have the caramel corn and we're sampling it out. We're selling it off the table. We have waffle cones going to get the smell out, even if we don't need them at key times. We always have our sample trays ready ahead of time, right? We're not like behind the curve in that area going, oh, right, we offer samples. You're like, no, we offer samples. And I made it really easy for me and everyone else in this area to offer samples because we already have a tray ready and we can put it in people's bodily space. Take that tray, put it out where they can see what we mean. And there's this biblical thing where you're like, Jesus walks around and goes, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. And, you know, as a kid growing up in that culture, I was like, what the hell are people talking about? This is so weird. This is just whatever. I just block it out, right? It doesn't mean anything. Well, what it means is within reach. It means you can reach out and grab it, right? So now I know that. But that's like all I think about when I think about sample tray is the samples are at hand. They are in reach. Reach out, grab them, take a sample. Because a lot of times you offer a sample and people are like, no, I'm good. They don't know what you're talking about. Nobody's like us. Other people's samples aren't amazing, and people aren't serious about it. And they don't see that it's ready, right? They don't know what they're committing to, so they're going to say no. But if you have a sample tray in their physical space reaching out across the counter, they're going to go, oh, yeah, I would like a sample, of course. It's a lot harder to say no when you understand what you're being offered. So all of those really, really basic things are driving sales, right? And that is your job as a supervisor, to make sure that we're protecting that core tenet of enjoyment in our environment. And a lot of that comes in strategy, in planning ahead of time, really thinking through the day and going, okay, this is when we need to make sure we're cooking. This is when we need to make sure we have someone on waffle cones. These are the things visually that we need to protect in the store first, right? So we might be running out of this thing over here in the back, but the first impression the customer is getting of the store is actually this area. So we're going to hit that first. And make sure that isn't full of like random trash, or there's not like, an ice cream spill on that gondola, because that's the first thing the customer's encountering. So it's just remaining cognizant of that customer perspective, timing things so that customers are aware that we exist when they're walking by out on the streets, and timing things in the kitchen. We're going to do a lot of that work for you on the schedule, and we expect you to understand why that's happening. That if someone's on waffle cones and you're like, our cabinet is full, you need to check with us and go, hey, waffle cabinet's full. Do you still want me to have someone on cones just for the smell out? And if we don't have someone else cooking in the kitchen, we're probably going to be like, yes, absolutely. That's why that shift is scheduled there. It's not an issue of need. It's an issue of protecting enjoyment. It's an issue of the fact that we're a business and we want to bring people into the store. So we can go more in depth into this strategies for this and everything, but we want you to understand that as a supervisor, all of a sudden you're in a realm where, hey, it's not just your job to be in ice cream anymore or in fudge going, hey, would you like a sample? Can I help you? Your job is to be protecting that tenet of the business. And that's what separates a lot of times who I'm going to put in charge of a shift as a shift supervisor, as opposed to who is going to be a junior supervisor in that situation. Because I know certain people will protect that. And I am going to be like, okay, I want you to be in charge because you're going to protect this thing that's really basic to what we do.